feel like my whole childhood I've been lied to. Like, how did we not know? Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first edition of a weekly roundup series. We are covering everything trending in e-commerce, AI, and culture. We're sharing our hot takes on everything happening in the news cycle, what's on your For You page, and more importantly, why it matters to you and your e-commerce business. And we're going to have a little fun while doing it. So my name is Elena.
And I'm Roxy.
And we've got so much to cover this week, and I'm really excited to get into it. Now, Roxy, we want to talk about what's happening in the news, and I want to kick us off with something a little bit fun and see what you think. Okay. I saw in the news that fans are freaking out about Hello Kitty creators saying that she's a little girl and not a cat. What do you think?
One, that's funny. I would have never thought that she was a little girl, being that I think we both grew up with Hello Kitty.
Yes.
But what's so crazy is we saw that Hello Kitty was trending in our H1 data. And I did a quick Google search because I'm like, why is Hello Kitty trending? And it turns out it's the 50th anniversary. So that's probably why we're also having these conversations about her not being a cat. She's a little girl. But I just thought that was really interesting.
That is so interesting. And 50 years is iconic, but I feel like my whole childhood I've been lied to. How did we not know? I just felt like that headline caught my attention, so it's probably caught yours as well. So wanted to chat about that a little bit.
Absolutely. And we were just talking about the Olympic hype from an e-commerce perspective in the last Edge newsletter, which is, of course, it's relevant. I mean, it's happening right now. But I think it's so interesting to talk about the impact that the Olympics can have on e-commerce and how brands can personalize the experience based on these events that are happening. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, I feel like as marketers and merchandisers, like we've talked about this before, but you have to keep up with the speed of culture and you have to know what people are talking about in order to market to them and be relevant. And I think if you don't hyper focus on what's happening in the world, you miss it. Like we have such a short attention span. And it's like, if we're not talking about what everybody's talking about, like hence the show, like we talk about Olympics because the Olympics are relevant. So brands who are tapping into that, I think are winning, but it's cool to see that like brands are coming up with cool, creative ways to talk about the Olympics, stay relevant with their customers. And that gives that personalized experience that you can kind of tap into with what's happening in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I also saw, speaking of the Olympics, the gymnastics team, obviously they have so much hype. Simone Biles, the absolute GOAT. But I saw the other day that when they celebrated winning the gold, they came off the mat and started talking about what TikTok idea they were going to create afterwards. I think they did the one where it was like, what happens if we won't win? I guess we'll never know.
What happens if we don't win? Yeah.
I guess we'll never know, which was iconic. And they were all holding up their gold medals. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. But that just kind of got me thinking, like, obviously the Olympics, all eyes are on the Olympics, but the fact that our young people, me and you included, like are thinking about content as the big moments are happening. We're like, how can we picture this on our TikTok For You page? Or how can we craft this into a little story to like put on social media? What do you think about that?
And it also, I think what's so iconic about these Olympians, gold medalists, thinking about what they're going to post in terms of content, it just further illustrates how important a personal brand is. These are not just athletes, like these are brands, you know, they're constantly thinking about their image and like their exposure and the content that they can create around it. And I just think that is so cool and so phenomenal to watch. I actually got goosebumps just thinking about that TikTok because it's just cool.
Iconic. Well, that's the era that we're in. Social media is everything right now. And so it's always like, how can I go viral on what I'm just doing, living my life? And these are athletes on the biggest stage. They're like, why would I not go there? And also like these social platforms are incentivizing you to be creative and to like continuously put stuff out. So if they're getting paid on social for going viral, like they got to be creative. Like they got to step up their game.
Right. Exactly.
Well, heading into the tech and AI space, I know we have to cover that just because that's what we're paying attention to. I want to talk about the fact that Google reversed its plan to phase out third-party cookies in Chrome. Now, that's a big deal in our space, but they announced that it was going to introduce a new feature that lets users decide if they want to be tracked. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, but I do think that it's kind of okay for marketers because I think users will still choose to opt out of tracking. I feel like when you get that pop-up, you're always like, "Ooh, I don't really want to be tracked." So that data might be a little less reliable, but I think that like empowers brands to think about their zero-party data and first-party data more now than ever when it comes to owned media channels like SMS and email. What do you think? Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, and I think it also forces brands to continue to think about how do they own that relationship with their consumer. You should be collecting that first party data. If not you, then who? Like someone else owns that relationship. So first party data is so important. It allows you to have this unique perspective on your shopper. And we talk a lot about like personalized marketing and the more you know that customer, their preferences, what they like, what they don't like, how they shop, that further allows you to personalize that experience for them. So I think as brands, as marketers, the big takeaway for us is to continue to try to optimize and further understand that customer and their needs.
Doubling down on the real-time data for your best use. Like that is the key takeaway that I had. So I thought that was interesting and obviously wanted to bring it up here.
Absolutely. And that also, another thing, 55% of Gen Z made an online purchase while browsing social media. I know we have talked a lot about this. I think that kind of ties in with the whole data piece because there's this heavy emphasis, and I think this has been for a while, but like, what's Gen Z buying? What's millennials buying? How are they different? And things like that. But what's your take on?
Girl, I am embarrassed to say how many purchases I've made from TikTok Shop alone specifically. And I am a proud millennial, but they are making it too easy. Like every time I search for something, I see someone's live review of what I want to buy, what they look like, how it fits. It's like a movement, like in action. I recently just bought a couple of dresses. So it was one of those things where I could see this like real time like review, which I think people are craving. All you have to do is click a button. All of my data is in there. I'm like, ship to me, ship straight to me. And they always have coupons. They're just making it easier than ever to make those purchases quickly. So I'm no stranger to that. Are you buying stuff online or on TikTok Shop at least?
Absolutely. And I can't remember the creator that I follow, but her whole content is around, okay, this is what the model looked like online. And this is how I look like outfit. It's just, I mean, content is king. It's been that way for a long time, but like video content is, I mean, if it's just supreme. It allows us to be able to see ourselves through whoever's creating that content. We're like, okay, I might buy this because they have now convinced me. It's like, there's a reason why the hashtag TikTok made me buy it is a thing because I'm always convinced to buy things through social.
We're locked in. I feel like it's a blessing and a curse. Like I'm spending way more money than I need to, but I feel like it's a better shopping experience when you can actually see that. I think we'll only see that increase for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And then I wanted to end on talking about back to school because that is a seasonal peak that we don't always like understand. This is the beginning of holiday season. Actually, I think Prime Day is like the kickoff of holiday season now. But I was recently reading an article and it said that back to school retail spending slips after a record high. What do you think about that?
Well, I was looking into this because I saw the article and I knew we wanted to talk about it, but I saw that the dip in back to school spending is likely due to last year's high investment in electronics, which I found interesting. The NRF said that specifically, and not a lot of people buy electronics every year. So I was kind of like, okay, that kind of makes sense, but I feel like everybody's got to go back to school every year. I just wonder like why this year in particular. I'm very curious to see how that goes.
Yeah. And some of our like how we've thought about this in years past is that back to school e-commerce performance can really inform you of the upcoming holiday peak. So as merchants, there's so much that you should be cognizant of as you prepare for back to school and how you optimize. Of course, we'll be sharing more insights and tips and tricks as we get into it. But that wraps up our weekly roundup. If you enjoyed this, you can find us here every Friday at 11 a.m. EST on LinkedIn. Hashing out similar topics. Drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. And if you're looking forward to more content, check out our bi-weekly podcast, The Commerce Experience. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.